That's a fantasy song, but there's no question that if some of the lines came out of a conversation that I had had with him, telling him about some of my mom's experiences at the end of World War II and her liberation from concentration camps. So that some of those truths resonated with him, and he took it and put it in another context, in a sci-fi context. There's no question there's not a night I sing that song that I don't think about that story my mom told me about her, liberation. Yeah, it was a difficult record to make initially. It was learning how to be a band again, and for Neil, learning how to re-enter the music world and, reassociate himself with all that stuff from before. So it was a painful record for him to make, there's no question. And when it came time to do these remixes, he was quite happy not to be too involved in it, to be honest. And as the mixes started coming in, and we heard what a great job David was doing in freshening the sound and cleaning the sound up, it became obvious that not a lot of input from us was necessary, because he really got it. He really kind of nailed it. And so everyone would make a comment or two, and we saved them all up and then sent them to Neil in kind of bunches. And he was like, wow, thumbs up here, no problem. So it was nice to see an album that was so difficult to make and was so pivotal in our lives get a new lease on life. I was so moved by the stories of these players and the fact that it's an important museum that really needs to be supported. I believe it should be financed and supported by Major League Baseball. I think they owe it to the baseball world to support that place, and it needs to be more well known. Anyway, so it was a very impressive moment for me to go through that tour of the place. And when I walked away from it, it just kind of stayed with me. The story of all these guys and the conditions and the characters, the personalities, so many amazing personalities played in those days. I happened to be perusing one of the baseball auctions, and my buddy and I both noticed that there was quite a large collection of Negro League signatures going up for auction. And I just said, well, I think we should buy some of them and let's donate them to the museum. So let's buy them for that purpose alone. We are turning the machines off for a year and recharging our batteries. We've been doing a lot of touring and writing over the last 10 years. And from a practical point of view, it would probably be much smarter for us to be out on the road promoting our 40th anniversary, especially after the Hall of Fame induction and all that. But thankfully, we're not very smart, so we're going to take a holiday and try to enjoy it. Yeah, I think it's been a slow crossover from the outer reaches of rockdom to the mainstream, just slow infiltration. And I think what happened was a lot of Rush fans that had grown up with our music started finding themselves in a position to pay it back in a way. And people like John Hamburg making I Love You Man and insisting that the only band that elicits that kind of passionate response is a Rush fan. That kind of thing kind of reintroduced us into the eyes and ears of many people. And the documentary went a long way to doing that as well. And slowly there was just these accolades that helped pique interest, and I think coincidentally we got better at the same time. We were making good records and our tours were very successful and we were playing really well. So sometimes you're prepared for when good things happen, and I think that was the case. Well, certainly Deep Purple, certainly yes. I have to give it a more complete thought, but those are two names that stand out as omissions in my view. If they let us in, they'll let anybody in. You can't ignore progressive rock. The door's been opened, and there's some great bands that have been very influential on other artists. And I think one of the things the Hall of Fame looks for is influential bands. And influence is a big part of their criteria, and you could make that case clearly for Deep Purple. I mean, none of the bands in this year's Hall of Fame that were nominated would sound like that without Deep Purple. So that's an essential one. And yes, you can make the same argument. You know, hugely influential band. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was hilarious. I love it. I'm glad they did it. It's totally cool.